Hi there. Today you have the opportunity to discover more about yourself than you've ever known before, because today we're looking at Psalm 56. Psalm 56 is a Michtam. You may remember we mentioned that word way back in Psalm 16. A Michtam is a golden secret. So what that's all about is our new creation, the person that God is forming within us, new creation realities. It says that this psalm is to be sung to the melody of Jonath Elem Rekukim, which translates to the distant, silent dove. It was written when David was captured by the Philistines in Gath. Gath is where Goliath came from. Goliath was their champion, and David killed him. And so David is now in Gath, the place where he had killed their champion. And so this is a dire situation for David. It's a life and death situation, and it is something where you look at David and you say, "What are you going to do, David? What are you going to do?" David says, "I'll show you what I'm going to do." And he turns around and begins to worship. That's what he did. He was in a life and death situation, and he worshiped. So David sings his heart out to the melody associated with the silent dove, none other than the Holy Spirit. The new creation comes alive when you're in a hard place. You come into your own when you're facing danger, because you have within you everything necessary to win. You are possessed by the Holy Spirit. Now in verses 3 and 4, it says this. David said this, "When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, I will not be afraid." When I am afraid, I will not be afraid. There are terrible things afoot, bubbling under the surface of our society, wars and rumors of wars, plagues and pestilence. It's no wonder that people are afraid, but fear has to find expression somewhere in us. Fear lodges in the same part of your soul that is occupied by faith. As a result, anyone who has abandoned God is driven by fear. Even those aggressive individuals, even those bullies of this world are ultimately driven by fear. If you abandon God, you abandon that part of your soul reserved for faith. You abandon it, and fear replaces it. Then it's not long before you feel like you have to abandon society, because society is a sinking ship. Have you addressed every sense of abandonment in your life? Maybe you were abandoned as a child. Maybe somebody dumped you or left you and you had this innate sense of abandonment. Well, let me encourage you today. Don't abandon yourself. Don't abandon your opportunity to be able to have faith and to see God's expression in your life instead of the expression of the fear-filled carnal nature. David wrote, "When I am afraid, I will not be afraid." I didn't know I could be afraid and simultaneously not be afraid. From time to time, we find ourselves facing threatening situations. a freak accident, a doctor's prognosis, our parents divorcing, or financial collapse. All of us are confronted by fearful circumstances occasionally. I know it's scary, but you can look fear in the face and say, I might be afraid, but I refuse to give in to my fear. Even if you're a long way from home, tyrannized by the enemy, in a desperate situation, you can put your trust in God, and though you might feel afraid, you can still be unafraid. The necessary thing is to live out your newly created spirit man. Your old nature, fallen and insecure, is easily drawn into the anxiety of the moment. That's the domain of the flesh. But your spirit man, who Christ is forming within you, where the Spirit longs to dwell, your spirit man knows peace, lives in the atmosphere of peace. Your spirit man has the Christ nature and knows no fear. Your natural man relates to the world. It reacts to the situation, but your spirit man relates to the Word. It corresponds to the nature of the Holy Spirit. When a situation seems dire, your natural flesh reaction will be one of fear, but simultaneously your spirit responds with the word of faith. Afraid, yet at the same time unafraid. And the unafraid part of you is that which God is forming. In every moment you have a choice. Will you live by the Spirit, or will you live by the flesh? If instead of focusing upon the object of your fear, you put your hope in God and say, the battle is the Lord's, then you'll rise above your situation and win. Now there's one more thing in this psalm I'd like to have a quick look at. Verse 8, it says, you tell all of my wanderings. You put my tears into your bottle. Are they not in your book? This song is talking about the value of your tears. There are times when words fail, times of despair where you choke and instead of words there comes a flood of tears. You can cry tears of self-pity on account of your circumstances. Alternatively, you can turn your tears into worship. Direct your tears towards heaven. Those tears don't need to leave you with mascara running down your face. They can instead be collected by the angels and stored in a bottle, written down in the book of life. And those tears become your prayers, held before God, consigned to God's book, a book of remembrance wherein everything that you do, everything you go through is transcribed. You've cried all night, your eyes are all puffy, it seems like your tears have gotten you nowhere. But God doesn't let them go nowhere. He takes them, turns them into your prayers, and they remain before Him until they secure your deliverance. So weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. That's an encouraging word for you. I just want to pray that you'll be able to engage with God in such a way today that no matter what your circumstance, even if it's a scary situation you find yourself in, I understand how that feels. Everybody does. Even though you're going through a trial and trouble, you can be afraid and yet unafraid by simply turning to God and declaring, hey, the battle after all is the Lord's. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow.